Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jay Rothman, and welcome to Real Men, Real Talk, Raw. It is actually Saturday afternoon here in the United States. If you're coming in from overseas, it is your Sunday. You are on my future trip, and I'm so excited to have in the studio with me today Mike Micene and Dominick Melillo. These two gentlemen, I knew them many, many years ago. It's coming up, I think, around 40 years ago that we were together back in. We met in high school. Before that, middle school, and we started our journey together in this thing called life back in elementary school. The three of us grew up in Commack, New York, and it's been so many years. But it was just about a week or so ago that I invited them in to do a show with me, and we had such a good time, such an amazing conversation. We all agreed to come back. And so here we are today, 1 week later, and a lot's changed, but at the same time, not a whole lot has changed. So here we are, Mike coming in from Michigan and Dominick coming in from our hometown of Commack, New York. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Happy to be here.
We got together about 30 minutes or so ago in what we refer to as the green room in the broadcast world, and we actually had a show before the show. We had quite the conversation, and so what I'd like to do is, as I invite each one of you, maybe just to take a moment here to share with our community what your background is and what it is that you do and have done for the last number of years, while I share this out into many different channels on social media. Mike, I'd like to first invite you to share with us all what it is that you do and how you do it.
Okay, so my career and background now is personal training, strength coach, nutritional coach, things like that. I spent the last 20 so years working in this industry for different gyms, both on Long Island here in Michigan. Was lucky enough to open my own gym about 10 years ago. And I've been doing it ever since. It's something I love to do. I love to teach people how to move, how the body is designed to move, how to strengthen the body, get in touch with the perception of how the body moves and how we think and use our minds to use that same mechanic to help ourselves grow stronger. And we talk a lot about nutrition, water, organic food, stuff like that, probiotics, things that just kind of help the human body run at its best. And so for the last 10 years, at least, I've been helping mostly the adult population, but I still train athletes and young kids as well. But that is my shtick right now. I just love to help people, help them learn to train, help them how to get healthy, and just live a better lifestyle.
Thanks for sharing that, Mike. I'm sure we're gonna deep dive into a little bit about how your background and your knowledge and education right now may in fact be useful and helpful to those that are at home and maybe at the beginning of understanding how they can actually, even in their home at this time, improve their health and wellness. I'd like to invite Dominick for you to take some time here to share a little bit about your background and how you are of a service to men and women across the world today.
Hi, everybody. As a trade, I've been in the technology field for 30 plus years, working as a consultant trainer. I've done a whole lot of the education in the technology field as well. I've transitioned into not only help people with technology, but help people with themselves, the human technology. So I am a certified hypnotist. I am a life coach, spiritual advisor. I do some aura readings, read people, intuitive, and information with that. I've always had an interest in looking at the world in a very different way, than most people for as long as I can remember, even as a young child. And I always seen things that I guess most people didn't, and I didn't understand why others didn't. So I dived into as much information and research into many different topics. And it's amazing how some what would seem very different topics are very related in our world, in our society. I'm a lover of history. Oftentimes, I find that the history that we've been taught is false, or it's manipulated. And I've then started going and researching ancient history and ancient technologies and things of that nature. So I've researched that, lectured on things of that nature. I choose to help people in getting more aligned with a new way of thinking. Actually, it's a very old way of thinking. The way of thinking that we are connected to one another, and we are one human family, actually a universal family. So that is what I try to do nowadays, is to teach people that we are all connected.
What is that? Could you kind of tell me a little bit more about that? How is it that we are connected if we're not, let's say, we're not physically in the same room? How is it that we are connected?
Think of it as each of us as a drop of water, and each of those drops of water are unique in the way that we think, feel, in the knowledge that we have, in the way that we react to things. But when you get all together into a pool of water, into a jar of water, into an ocean of water, each of those drops, even though they're unique, become part of that whole. And we as a whole will determine what that water does is like. Sometimes the water, we are moved along by a current or a stream, but sometimes, we sit there together and we are in this group. And what happens is, when we are together, we that energy, that of what that water is not only of you, of me, it's of everybody in that. So in other words, if a pebble gets dropped into that water, it ripples out and goes beyond just that one little drop. So once that drop of water goes in that ocean or in that pool, in that puddle, it reflects and affects the entire pool of water. So we are connected in a way that, and I know this, it makes more sense in my head than it does from my mouth, but we are all part of this energy. The pool of water that I'm talking about is really an energy in which we're all part of. Some people might refer to it as the ether. Some people might refer to it as a dimensional thing or a universal thing, or some people refer to it as God. To me, God is not a single person or being. It's an energy, which we're all part of.
Thanks for sharing that a little bit further, Dominick. What I'd like to do at this moment is really just kind of take us in conversation to, as I mentioned, it's been just over a week since we got together, and I'm curious, how are you guys doing? How has your week been? Have you personally had any experiences that from what's going on in the states that you are living, and how have you chosen to first show up for yourself and then show up for the family members that are maybe living with you in the same environment, same home at this time? Dominick?
Well, I had some bad news. My uncle passed this past week. He had liver cancer, but he had also contracted the coronavirus. So I believe they're contributing his death to the coronavirus. So that gives, time for contemplation and thought, how this has affected not only me, but the rest of the people in the world. I am, we've got a lot of time on our hands. We can sit and we can reflect. And again, we can do what we want with this time, and how we react to these feelings that we're experiencing, the time that we have. Let's put it this way. we have the opportunity now to slow our lives down. How many of us have been moving quickly through life, going from job to home to kids to shopping to cleaning to cooking to doing the yard work, to doing all these different things, and we keep saying to ourselves, we need to slow down. And I wish I can go on vacation. Well, we kind of have a little vacation here. Like vacation, maybe not the ones that we want, not sitting on the beach and having a good time in that respect, but we have slowed down our lives. We can now sit back and take stock of what's happening in our life. We can sit back and say, the path that I was on, maybe because I'm deciding now, or maybe we're being forced to change the trajectory of our lives. But to think about that, what is the trajectory of my life and how has it been proceeding and how do I want it to go from here on in? Am I happy with the way things have been working? So now we have all this time to contemplate what is our next step? How can we move forward? The wake of this will probably last quite a while. And not only in the fact that we're all going to be social distancing and being stuck indoors, but once, we're allowed to go out again or allowed to be in social gatherings, people's attitude is going to be different. How quickly are people going to go out and go to a concert where you squeeze together? What happens next New Year's at Times Square? We're going to have pockets of 6 feet distances between all people. This is going to affect us going forward, because so what do you want to do going forward? We need to start figuring out what is important in our life, what we liked about our, what we did yesterday, and think about what we want to make changes to do tomorrow.
Mike, what's your take on all?
Well, yeah, I think Dominick's touched a lot of good points. For me personally, like I told you guys earlier before the show started, my wife works in the local elementary school, and there is a large a variance in the economic status of the parents and the kids in the school. So our school is a food pantry for the local community, and so there's been a lot of that. We've done that for years. We get help from all kinds of different food services. My group from Church Knights of Columbus support them with a lot of food and stuff. And they've decided that they didn't want to stop helping families, which is a great idea, right? But with social distancing, it makes it a little more difficult. So they decided they would have food passed out through the parent loop at the school. And then we just found out today that one of the staff members contracted the virus. So, that's pretty close to home. And, I have a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old, and my 12-year-old was very concerned about, what had happened, how it happened, all that, prior to that, my wife did actually go and help. But apparently she's out of the window, hopefully, because they had a long talk with the principal and she sent out an email to talk to people. So with that said, we have to at least make sure that we are talking about this, right? I don't necessarily say we should be watching the news, every day and stuff like that, because, at some point we can only do what we can do, right? We can only control the environment that we're in right now, and that's why they're keeping us at a distance, so we can control our own personal lifestyles. And as far as what to do, I think it is, in my opinion, because I'm a lot more faithful and I do believe in God. So in my opinion, I think God's trying to tell us to slow down. He's kind of telling us, look what we did so far and how are we doing as a group in the world, how are we treating the world and human beings all over the planet. There's a lot of people out there trying to help the best that they can. And it's probably been very difficult. But for me, it's more about, like Dominick said, what are we going to do? Who are we? Do we like who we are? When you look in the mirror every day, is that somebody you're proud to be? This is an opportunity that if the answer is no, maybe look at some of the things in your life that could use fixing or repairing, take some of this opportunity to read more about life, about religion, about, anything, history, whatever you really enjoy. And, use your brain a little more, because you can't avoid what's happening, but we can definitely choose to live a certain way so that we are, unified as far as others go. So my whole deal was I just kind of wanted to help people. I lost my job. They closed my gym. I'm not going to be earning money for a while, and that's not a good thing. But it's not the only thing, and there's really that a lot. And so, how can I help? I'm trying to do that by just offering free trainings at home with little or no equipment. I'm offering them every day. I do them on Facebook and Instagram every day. Facebook is a Gotham promoting Facebook page, and Instagram is Batman13. But I try to offer these for everybody, not just my clients who I'm missing and I want to try to retain, but for people who just don't know what to do. And now that you have the opportunity, maybe you never worked out before. So there's something you can change in your life. Maybe you'll try to live a more healthy lifestyle. Maybe you'll listen to some of the people out there that are telling people, we should be living a healthy lifestyle even before this has gone on. If you want to protect yourself, living the health lifestyle, eating properly, sleeping properly, taking vitamins, probiotics, things that'll keep your body inside and out healthy. But more importantly, yes, get your mind right. Use this time to create a routine where you're thinking and reading about something that's actually going to help you in the long run. So like Dominick said, when we get back out there, are we doing the right things? Are we making the right choices? Are we, just doing things that'll be positive in the future? Because yes, the world is definitely going to be a different place for sure.
All three of us have children that are now adults. I'm curious though, I know my children are no longer under my roof. They live in different states and all. I believe, Mike, your children are still living with you. How are you and your wife? I believe your wife's name is Nancy.
Janelle.
How are you and Janelle? How have you communicated? What's going on? How much exposure do you give them permission to engage in the news? How are you guys managing your conversations with your teenage children? I believe they're teenagers, or?
Yeah, I got a daughter who's 12 and a son that's 10.
Okay.
We never watched the news prior to this whole incident, so we don't watch the news still. Most of the information we give them is from what we might have heard, and we just offer them, basic information as far as what's happening in the world, to make it just a little more realistic. I mean, there's a fear involved no matter what your age is, right? And so for me, I don't want them to be concerned with, things we can't control. And that's basically how I talk to them. So we do a lot of stuff together, my wife and I and my children. We pray every morning. We prayed every meal, and we've done that long before this stuff started, but we are praying even more with different prayers and stuff that we have been received from church and other things, just to give these kids a little more of a chance to just feel a little more confident about things, and to realize that, like Dominick said, whether it's God or whatever your power is and your energy is, that we can only control what we're actually, involved in as personal. So my wife and I are on the same page as far as that goes. I don't share a lot, like I said this, a little earlier. My wife spoke about one of her coworkers, so my daughter got a little anxious, And, you just do the best you can as a parent, right? To just reassure them that my job is to take care of them and protect them. We're going to do everything we're told to do as far as trying to, sanitize and stay clean and stay away from people and that kind of thing. But just try to give them the best opportunity on a daily basis to have a normal routine, whatever that means now, But, during the school week, they just went on Easter break starting yesterday, Friday. So they have all this next week off. So there's a little more freedom. They don't have to do any schoolwork at all, but they still read every day, which they've done their whole lives. And, we just try to do more family things. We play more games. We go outside and play in the yard more. I took a bike ride with them. I had two little ones today. I'm trying to just keep their mind busy so they don't think so much about the fact that we're just kind of alone in our own little private Idaho for a while, So that seems to be it. I'm just trying to keep some type of normality and a routine so they look forward to it every day. And there's not a lot of free time for us to just sit and think about whatever's happening in the world. We do, of course, pray for all the people who are on the front lines, the doctors, the nurses, and the healthcare professionals who still have to go to work. And I just wish them all the best, as far as safety and all goes, because literally they're standing right in the storm. So, I'd like to say I wish them all the best and I pray for all of them.
You remember back in December of 2012 when the Mayan calendar said that the world was going to end? Well, my son, who was 11 years old at the time, he says to me, "Dad, is the world ending tomorrow?" So I looked in the face. I said, "Yes, it is. But then it's going to start right up again." So in other words, we can let fear overtake us and control us, or we can not. So by saying that it's going to start up again was me basically saying that no matter what happens, tomorrow's still going to be there. Whatever we decide to do, we need to decide to do in the now, for today. We need to plan for the future using the knowledge that we've gotten from the past, but basically we are living in the present, and that's where we have to live, in the present.
Good point, man.
Getting back to the kids, and I love what you shared, Dominick. That's a beautiful way, even as adults, for us to embrace this moment. But I want to just take a moment here to ask the two of you if the children are being impacted very significantly because they're now out of their routines. And as we know, being dads, children need structure in life. And now what they knew as their reality has changed, just as ours has. I'm sure there's millions of kids worldwide that are asking their parents a lot of questions, especially the younger ones. How have you, or how do you suggest a parent that is being inundated with either a child asking a lot of questions and or being cognizant of how this lack of structure as they knew it is impacting the children emotionally? Any ideas on that?
Well, for me, again, I think I realized a long time ago, right? And I've told you guys before, like I'm an old dad, right? I had a life prior to being married at this time, and now I'm raising two kids, and I'm a little older, so hopefully a little wiser. But for me, one of the most important things is that we show them the attention that they want, right? I think a lot of times, kids come up to their parents and they want to tell them something, and in their mind, it's the most important thing on the planet, But in our mind, it's like, oh man, not right now. I'm doing this, or I'm reading that, or I'm trying to do this. But so that is a big point for me that I have tried to change in my life since I started being a dad. And that is just stop what you're doing and give them the time and the attention that they need. Because for me, they think it's the most important thing in the world, and it shouldn't be dismissed, even though we may not think as adults that it's really that important. And half the time, maybe it isn't. But so what I would say and what I would hope for with all parents is to please put down your electronics. They're not going away. They're not going to, but these are moments in our life right now, whether we like it or not, where we're going to have to be more attentive to our children, to their feelings, to what they want and need. And I think it's important as adults that we just give them that time and that attention so that they feel loved and comfortable in their own life and their own skin.
I agree with that. We have time now to reconnect as a family. If your children are going in their rooms and staying there all day, and you're doing your own thing, well, then you're not using this time to your benefit. Get the family together. get a deck of cards. If you don't have anything like that, make something. Go online. There's so many things you can do. Just play some games together. Do something as a family. Mom, dad, children. If it's a family that is no longer together, you have features like this. Create a Zoom meeting or a GoToMeeting, and do it online, FaceTime, Duo, whatever app you have, Skype. You can do so many things, and just get together as a group and start doing stuff. I remember playing cards with my family. It's my grandparents as well. It was one of the most memorable times of my life. When we were younger, we had puzzles on the table during the holiday season, and we'd go over once in a while, put a few pieces in. Break out those old stuff, the old toys, or whatever you got. Just try to spend time together.
I love that, Dominic. I just had an experience this week. Mary's daughter decided to drive in from Southern California and spend some time with us, get a break from what's going on in SoCal. And so, because a week ago we were not down in shelter in place. Our governor was one of the last. There's still a few out there that were not ready to surrender. So she came out here, and what she did was, before she left, she went online and ordered a puzzle to be delivered to our home here in Arizona. And the puzzle showed up about 3 days ago. And for 3 days, the three of us, Mary, Natalie, and I, worked on a puzzle together. Now, to be fair, I did a whole lot more of it than I did. But to be fair to me, I hadn't done a puzzle in, I'm estimating maybe close to 20 years, since my three sons were way younger. But you know what? I did find some pieces to put in, and I enjoyed it. Their focus was way more better than mine was. I wasn't as vested as they were. But the beautiful thing is that it did give us time to sit together and have some fun and use some of our brain to focus, distract us from the typical conversations that are going on in the homes. And the beautiful thing is the puzzle was finished last night. And I think Mary's now working on securing the next puzzle so that we have another puzzle to work on next week. And, therein lies, I'm smiling because it's something that I hadn't done since my children were younger. And here we were being able to connect now with Mary's daughter, who's 23, and the three of us to have some fun together. And it's a beautiful scenery of a beach. And, for those of us that don't have access and don't have the luxury of being at the beach now, and because we either have to take a plane to get there, or the beaches are on lockdown right now. For example, in Southern California, the beaches are closed. No one is allowed to be there. So doing puzzles, playing cards is a beautiful way to reconnect with ourselves, to our younger years, as well as with our family members that may be home. Dominic, you mentioned something, and I want to kind of tag you on it a little bit here. Is you mentioned about being home with family members, and I was talking to in conversation just yesterday, asking Natalie, who's obviously 23 years old, she's got a lot of friends in her age bracket, and I asked her what's going on with her friends, and she said almost everyone has gone home in their 20s, it's in her circle of life, have left where they're living and gone home to be with their family, their moms and dads. And I find that interesting. And it struck me as you're just sharing that even as adults, some of us have made the choice to go home, to go back to the homes that we may have even grown up in. And Dominic, I'd like for you to share with us in this moment. I believe, in fact, you are back in a home that you grew up in Commack, New York. Tell us how that's been for you and why you made the decision to do that, if you may.
Okay. When I left Commack, I never thought I'd be back, honestly. But I have a mother who is aged, is 86 years old. I mean, she can take care of herself still, but she can't handle a lot of things without help. She doesn't drive, so that becomes difficult. So it's just a way of, having an extra person around here to help her, take care of her, just take care of the things that occur in a home that's now almost 60 years old. But coming back to Commack was a bit difficult. Don't have the same privacy as they used to. Financially, it's a lot easier financially, that's for damn sure. But there are pros and cons to everything, and depending upon where you want to concentrate on, the pros or on the cons. I'm hardly, up until now, I've hardly spent much time at home. I'm always out doing something, either a class or an event, or working, outside the home. So I don't spend a lot of time in the home. Now I am this past few weeks, and as I said before, I got the ability to slow down a little bit, think about which direction I want to move in. I've been wanting to do some things for a long time that I've been putting off. Now I don't have that excuse anymore that I'm busy. But there's some comfort, I guess, in being in the house you grew up in, but there's also a little bit of a, like I said, I feel like I'm taking a step back in some respects, but again, depending on how you perceive, it's not really a step back, which I originally thought it might be. But it's just a different way of moving forward in life. I guess it's good that I can be here for my mom. In that respect, does it affect me in many different ways? Yeah, it does a little bit. I don't have the same freedom I had, same privacy level that I've had. But in life, sometimes we need to do what we have to do as opposed to what we always want to do.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Go ahead, Mike.
I can relate because I don't know if I told you guys this or not. So I was living outside I left the Commack and went on with my life. And then my dad got sick. He got prostate cancer and needed pretty much round the clock care, at least somebody to be with him. And so I was basically the only one without anything going on. And so I also moved back to my home in Commack, in the house that I grew up in. And Dominick, I understand the feeling of, kind of feeling like you're going backwards and all. But now looking back and in my way of thinking, in my faithful way of thinking, there are no accidents. There are no coincidences. We are put in these situations, and in these times we are put in these situations, I believe, by God. Okay. And so, it was a struggle. It was hard. He needed care 24 hours a day. I didn't get a lot of time off to get out, to do anything that I needed to do for myself to stay healthy. But now looking back, it was one of the greatest experiences that I have ever taken care of a human being and a human life. And at the time, I kept thinking to myself, why me? Why am I the one doing this? Why am I the one who's taking care of this human life? I didn't know anything about taking care of anybody or ever thought I wanted to take care of anybody. And so with that said, I believe that God was teaching me and preparing me, right, to become a parent, to become a husband and to become a dad. Because prior to that, I didn't think I was ever going to be husband or dad or anything. I thought I was just going to be Uncle Mike for the rest of my life, And so God put me in this situation. And Dominick, I don't know if you remember or not, but my dad and I were oil and water quite a bit. I was the youngest of five. So we butted heads quite a bit, and it was so incredible after those 2 years. And after we had spent this kind of forced time together, how we healed all of our relationship, and he said some incredibly kind things to me that I know he would have never said otherwise, and it touched me in a very deep way. And like I said, I kept wondering why I was there. And then it wasn't maybe a year after my father passed that I told you guys that I went down to play in this baseball tournament and met this girl on the beach. And here I am, married with 2 beautiful children, my own business. And for me, that's not an accident. But I guess we can look in those situations, and like you said, right, it's a mental thing, right? We can look and say, "Oh my gosh, well, poor me," and "Oh my God, I can't believe I have to do this." But I think in the long run, for me personally, Dominic, it was one of the most incredible experiences because I felt like I helped him pass. I felt like I was there. I promised him when he got sick that he wouldn't be alone. And then when hospice finally came in, the nurse kept telling me, he's going to wait till you go to the bathroom. He's going to wait till you, go outside to get the paper, And I thought, I promised him, and I was there till the end. And it was obviously very sad and emotional, but at the same time, it was incredible because I realized that a lot of people don't get that opportunity, right? That a lot of times we get a phone call and find out somebody passed. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so for me, this time, for a lot of us, I think kind of forces that, mindset where we have to face whether we like to or not, right? That we have to face some of the thinking and some of the things that maybe just because we weren't connected or we weren't as close to each other at the time, we didn't think about, right? I got brothers and sisters all over the country, one in California, one in Jersey, two on Long Island, and I think we take for granted too, right? That we are all good and all well and everything's cool and we don't connect as much as we should. Well, now we're taking every weekend to do the little house party thing, which is one of those things you can do to connect. And I think it's really changed not only the way we care about each other, but also the fact that there is no reason to wait and not talk to your loved ones or to talk to a friend or to talk to, whoever, maybe even reach out to somebody that you're not really getting along with that well, that you kept thinking all this time I should do it because as well with as far as the energy goes, when you hold on to that kind of resentment or bad feelings towards somebody, they don't even know it. You're the one carrying that bad feeling around and that bad energy around, So It might be a good time to address those kind of things too, as far as getting your health and your brain right. So I feel for you, man, but I know in the long run, God's blessing you by being there, pal.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
This is just amazing. I just want to take a moment here to honor you, both of you guys. This program we came in on today is Real Men, Real Talk Raw. And it is not a place I'd rather be right now because the wisdom that the two of you, the honesty, Dominic, the vulnerability that you just shared is powerful. And Mike, for you to be here in this moment and share with Dominic, you had a very similar experience. For you, it was coming home to your dad. Dominic, for you, it's coming home to your mom. But it's so powerful because it doesn't matter what age we are. We still are the kids of our parents. We still have that inner child that still has to deal with the stuff that we may hadn't dealt with when we were kids. And now we get to come back, circle back home and take care of some business that perhaps we hadn't taken care of, that we had not taken care of in our past. And we get to face some of those shadows, some of those things that we thought were gone, but all we had really done was just bury them. I could tell you the last few times, and I haven't been back to Commack a whole lot in my adult life because I've lived across the country. But I was back there, I think about 2 years ago. I went back for my cousin's wedding on Long Island. And of course, I made it out to Commack. And that's when, Dominic, you and I reacquainted. I rang your mom's doorbell. And you lived just a house over from me. And, as I said in the last conversation we had, as soon as I walked up to your doorstep, that's the old memories flooded my mind of the aroma of the strong Italian food that used to permeate from the four walls of your home. And I could tell you that as I drove through the neighborhood, as I drove past the high school, past the area where the Circle Hill Elementary School once was, as well as JFK, the middle school we went to, a lot of memories, of course, came back. And with those memories came the old emotions, the feelings. And some of them I didn't really want to have to face again. Some of them weren't comfortable for me. Mm-hmm. Some of them I never thought I wanted to have to feel again. And what I have learned in my own healing journey in the past 4.25 years is that until we face those shadows, they're still within us. And so this is such a beautiful gift. Not only do you get to give to your mom by being present for her, although it may feel uncomfortable at times when you get, old memories, old emotions get activated as you go down memory lane in Commack. On the back end of all this, you really have created such a beautiful gift of healing for yourself, healing for your relationship with the community that you grew up in, as well as healing whatever shadows there may be in your own home. And so I just, like I said, I'm so glad that we have this time together today, because here we are, and Mike went through a very similar experience with his own dad, and he's affirmed what a blessing it on the backside. He's able to process it and reflect on it.
Yep.
I think it's important that we share, these kind of incidences and situations in a life, because you never know who's out there hearing something that they may be struggling with, and I've talked to you in the past about my past and how I didn't live such a healthy lifestyle and stuff. But, I think it's important because you never know who's listening, who you might affect just by sharing, I'm not proud of some of the things that I did in my life, but, we're all human and we get to grow and learn from our experiences and from our challenges. And so, I think it's important that you share that. I also did the same thing for my mom. I was actually working for Grumman Aerospace at the time. This was back in 1989. I lost up to date 8 people in my family to ALS, which is a horrible, horrible disease, Lou Gehrig's disease. So my mom got sick, and I said to them, I'm not coming back till my mom passes, because I know it's not going to be very long, And I basically walked out. And, being the youngest of 5, and, everybody uses the B word, which I am, and I can't help it, it was quite traumatic for me, and again, I think now looking back, it was a blessing because I got to help her pass. I got to be there for her at the end of her life. It was definitely the hardest time in my life by a long shot. I don't know if you can really get anywhere in your life the unconditional love that your mom and your parents give you. I hope that you get it from your spouse, obviously, and your children. But, it was a traumatic thing for me. But like I said, looking back, it was an incredible gift to be there, to be a part of just helping her, kind of thanking them for raising me. I can't say enough about this experience. And I know, Dominick, how it feels to just your lifestyles change and everything's kind of different. But I really believe in my heart more than anything I can tell you today, and I'll ever tell you, that you're supposed to be there. There's a reason you're there. Whatever power you want to say put you there, there's a reason, man. And it's definitely a great reason,
Yep. Thank you.
Mike, if I may paraphrase what I think I just heard you say, in my interpretation of it is, when we talk about the universe and we're right where we're supposed to be, what's behind that is trust, is really trusting that we don't have to understand why. And a lot of times we want to know the answers. We want to know, well, why me? Like you said, Mike, you're the youngest of 5 siblings, yet you were there, you made that choice to be there for your dad at the extreme level that you went in to caretake your dad in those last days of his life. But we tend to want to ask the questions like, well, why me? You said that.
Yeah.
And when we're willing to accept that we are right where we're at, even when there's discomfort, even when there's dis-ease, even when there even may be some feelings of injustice in life, when we learn how to embrace and truly trust that we're right where we're supposed to be, not necessarily where we want to be, that's when the gift really starts to open up for us. Because when we open ourselves up to understanding that even though we don't like where we are, maybe emotionally, mentally, physically, financially, spiritually, we're right where we're supposed to be. And when we're willing to trust and just embrace this moment and go, okay, I surrender. I surrender. Right. I'm here. I'm open. Teach me what I need to learn. Show me what I need to see. It changes.
I think that's true. Yep, I think that's true. I think part of what you're saying too is that we need to be open, right, to the learning experience, to what we're going to see. You know, a lot of times because we're so busy and we're walking around with blinders on half the time, we're not looking around. We're not appreciating the real beauties in life and the people in this life. And so, yeah, I think it's incredibly important to surrender, to have faith, because faith is basically believing and not seeing, right? I mean, in the very simplest form, right? I'm talking in a Catholic sense, but faith is basically believing without seeing. And, there are so many stories in the Bible about people who were healed and cured because they had faith, even though they never saw or ever heard of God or Jesus, And so, yeah, I think it's incredibly important that, especially now in this day and time, that we have faith, that we just say, okay, I realize, yep, there's going to be some serious heartache and sorrow in the world right now. But I surrender to it. And I believe that everything, again, has to happen for whatever reason. This is not the first time things like this have happened in our mankind, and it probably won't be the last. But yeah, I've told you before, for me, faith is incredibly important part of my life. And I think now that there's more time for me and my family, we choose to dive in and to try to educate ourselves even more, because I believe in my heart that it gives me the most strength of anything I've ever experienced before in my life.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier about always being busy doing something. We keep ourselves busy to distract ourselves from sometimes what we really need to be doing with our lives. We are not really put here to work, 40, 50, 60 hours a week for something else. We're here to work on ourselves and learn about what it is to be connected to others, starting with our family and then working from there. So again, this is a good opportunity to reclaim that part of who we are. Build a community, not just an online community, but one where you are in front of people, connecting with people. Again, we can't do the touchy-feely kind of thing right now. We need to maintain that 6 feet or so of distance, but and shelter in place, but start preparing our minds for thinking that there is more to life than just working, and sending the kids to day camp or to basketball practice and football and baseball and all those things, language and music, all good things. But we're spending so much time doing things as separately. We've forgotten what it's like to be together as a family, as a world even. So I think it's not only time to reconnect as a family, it's reconnect to the world with a different perspective, with a different outlook, and say, this working for a living, maybe is not what we need to be doing with our lives.
I agree. I think what you said too is that, there is going to be a new norm, right? When we're all done with this, or yes, what you think is your normal lifestyle. I don't think anybody's going right back to that. You know what I mean? And so I think it's important that, we become a little more flexible and a little more open-minded to what it is that is going to happen in our future, and how much of it is going to affect our lives and other people. Like you said earlier, I think it's a really important thing to think about.
Let me ask you guys, I want to just jump in here for a moment, Aaron. Mike, you mentioned faith. I talk a lot about in my coaching group and community, when I do my spontaneous lives, about faith over fear, living in faith or fear. Mike, what's your spin on that? How do you personally, how do you navigate through those moments when you do have fear in your life?
Okay, so very famous statement, right? I think it was FDR, if I remember, that said, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself." So, in my opinion, fear is self-created, right? We scare ourselves. We put the fear in our minds, and mostly, I think the fear comes from the unknown, right? What we don't know, we're afraid of. I can use an example like my daughter, who was afraid of heights for the longest time, and she went on her 5th grade field trip. And they told her she was going to climb a rock wall. And I knew right then and there she wasn't even going to put the harness on, And they said to the parents, they're going to put the harness on them. They don't have to get on the wall, but they want them to put the harness on. They want them to put the helmet on and just kind of at least do that much, right? Try to reach a place where they're facing their fear to some extent, right? And so that's that's what I think. I think that we scare ourselves a lot because we don't know, but the true fact of it is like I said earlier, that, faith is about, believing and not seeing. Right. So again, it's a mental choice. Like Dominick said, it's an energy, so to speak. But for me, that's the deal. As soon as I get to that place where I'm frightened or I scare myself to some extent, I just turn right back to my faith and I say, with God, all things are possible. There's nothing to fear. The term "do not be afraid" is the most used term in the Catholic Bible. All right, there's got to be a reason for that. God is telling us over and over again not to be afraid. So if you have faith, whatever it is, whether it's God or any other entity or religion or mindset, I think if you go to that place, you can strengthen yourself. To me, faith is like willpower, right? You have to train it, right? You have to train it just like you would, your body and your mind. You have to put time into it. You have to exercise it, and then you have to, perform it. You have to allow your body and your brain to actually experience that non-fear by believing in something. So, just to circle back. So, a lot of the local teachers in my gym, and the morning of my daughter's rock climbing event, one of the teachers sends me a text picture of her halfway up the wall. And I just lost my mind because I had spoken to her before she left. And I said, "Listen to me, you don't have to do it if you don't want to. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you face the fear, you're going to be very, very, very happy that you did it, number one. And number two, it's going to make you more courageous in your future. And I can't help you with that. Only you can help you with that. Do you understand me?" And she said, "Yeah, I think so." And so he sends me this picture, and she's halfway up the wall. And I was almost in tears, man. I was like, oh my God, she did it. And it wasn't for me, right? Because it doesn't really affect me. But it was something incredible for her, And then, we build on this whole point of faith versus fear, like you said. And then about a half an hour later, he sends me a picture, and she's at the top. And I just couldn't believe it. And I was so happy and so proud for her, And so it was a dad moment, I was like, well, I kind of told her, that you have to believe in faith, and then, you can push that fear away by being strong and courageous and just trying. And she did it. And, thank God, because now it's in her forever that she realizes that if she just confronts the fear, she's going to be better off in the long run. And then maybe she'll be able to do it again somewhere else in her life, in some other aspect of her life. So that thing is, it's powerful, man. It really is powerful. And it's something I carry with me every day.
That's beautiful, Mike. I want to share something with you. I love that story that you just shared. And you, as you said, it was a dad moment for you. As a local mountaineer here I call it the outback of Arizona, I have Airbnb. I do hike and heal experiences. And many times the guests that will book with me are booking at rated like the most challenging mountain to hike and climb in the Phoenix Valley area. It's rated double diamond, extremely difficult. And so we're kind of working our way up the mountain. And when we get to about 3/4 of the way to the peak, Now we're really rock climbing. We're not just hiking, we're rock climbing slate to get to the peak where the gold medallion is. And I can't tell you how many times I have witnessed my guests going into total fear and panic in that moment. And there's nothing more beautiful for me than to literally, they're not even aware because I'm ahead of them, but I turn around and I turn my video camera on. And I videotape the whole experience of them having to walk and climb through their fear. And one of the greatest experiences for me is when they push through as an adult, male and female, and get to the top. They literally are in tears of incredible joy, tears of just such appreciation and a feeling of freedom. Like they can't believe that they just accomplished that. And to be able to witness that as you witness with your own child is just beautiful. Where I'm going with this is that we don't have to just have this experience with our children. When we are aware that someone in our immediate circle is facing fear, and if we're willing and able to hold space for them and encourage them, inspire them with the feelings of safety, we can have that same experience with someone that we may have just met an hour earlier. Because when we are able to have that experience and witness someone else breaking through to break free to freedom, and they can release that old story that they didn't think they could do something like this, it's a game changer. It changes everything for them. And we get the gift of witnessing that. And so I thank you for sharing that, Mike. That's a beautiful moment there. I'd like to ask the two of you, maybe starting with Dominick, what do you suggest? How do you suggest those that in this moment, right here, right now, today, that are literally living in this tape of this loop that's not going away right now of fear? Any suggestions on what's working for you, the two of you, starting with you, Dominick, and how we can kind of lead them out of fear, break free to freedom?
Okay, first thing I would do is turn off the news. Periodically, you might want to go online and just check how things are going and where things are at. But just stop watching 24-hour news channels as a start. Even the briefings from the president. I mean, you at this point, most of us, I believe, are safe. We've stocked up enough food at home. We're home in a place that is relatively safe. So there's no need to worry about your immediate danger. So just take a step back from that, disconnect from the rest of the world and focus on something else. Now, you made Jay, you were talking earlier about when you came back to Commack and all of the feelings that flooded you. We are a culmination of all of our experiences in our lifetimes, but the experiences that we had are anchored in feelings. The feelings that we had at the time or what we remember, and that triggers, even a scent can trigger those feelings. An image can trigger those feelings. So we're really a culmination of not so much the things that have happened and the knowledge that we've gained, so much as we are a culmination of the feelings that we've had. So these feelings are real, they're important, but in some respect, if you hold on to that feeling for too long, no matter what that feeling is, whether it be the fear, whether it be hope is not something that we want to hold on to for very long. These things are necessary, but they should be temporary. Fear, if we're walking through a dark alley and we hear a noise, we want to know what that noise is about. If we're walking through a forest and we hear a growl, we want to know that that's not danger. So we will fear it, and that's necessary, a reaction. But we don't want to live in that. If life has brought us down somewhere and we hope that things will get better, well, that hope is good, but as a temporary thing. We don't want to live in hope our entire lives. I don't want to hope my life will get better every single day of my life. I want I want to live that better life now. If we're at a certain level, hope is good, because maybe we've reached a low point in our life and we need that hope to start bringing us out. But when we get to a point, we don't want the hope anymore. We want to be. So we can live in the fear, or we can be living our lives. We can live in that hope, or that wish, or that something that is talking about our future. We don't want to live in the past or the future. We want to live in the present. So turn that hope into the now. Turn that fear into the now. To live in fear that, I might get a coronavirus, if I'm taking all the precautions, if I'm distancing myself, if I'm wearing the mask in public, if I'm wearing gloves, I'm doing all these things that I can do to prevent it. Why do I have to live in the fear of that possibly happening? If I'm home with my family, or with even if I'm by myself, if I'm with others, I have to be concerned. But if we're all in the same boat, why fear? Let that fear overcome us. We've taken the necessary precautions, and you have faith, as Michael said, as Jay said, we have faith that we're going to be fine, because we can talk ourselves into a situation that we don't want, or we can talk ourselves into a situation that we do want. We can manifest things in our life that are good, and we can manifest things in our life that are bad. And I've seen people manifest bad stuff into their life and manifest the solution to get out of it. And then they manifest the bad in their life and they manifest out of it. But it all comes down to not only having faith in something else, but having faith in ourselves, even. Having faith that we are more than what we're told we are. We're not, we don't have to listen to constant fear and doubt and things like that in the news or in the media. And even if we listen to it, we don't have to believe it. Believe this and create the story that you want and make that happen.
I think one of the biggest challenges we face is our own thoughts and our own stories that we create, Dominic. My experience is right in line with what you just shared. For example, I've made a lot of choices in the last 4.5 years or so that most people in my circle will comment and say something to the effect like, there's no way I could do that. We're constantly selling ourselves short. And I see it, I've witnessed it, I experienced it. So for example, when I chose to do a 19-day water fast back in 2018, 99% of the people in my circle said, oh, no way could I ever do that. And that's just a story. They're telling themselves it's a lie. It's not the truth. But it becomes a truth because they keep repeating it. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, there's no way. When I made the conscious decision to go relatively plant-based in my diet and my nutrition for health reasons, again, all the people that will just say to me, I give you a lot of credit, Jay. I don't think I could ever do that. I just love my meat too much. And what they don't understand is that how we talk about ourselves, to ourselves, for ourselves, is the reality that we create. So if you're walking around consistently saying what you can't do, instead of saying what I can do, we're not living to die. We're just dying to live. If that makes any sense. I want to live until I die.
I think one of the things that I try to tell all the people that I train, right? And I said most of my clients are adult, but I have kids and I have athletes as well, is that word you just mentioned, can't. I tell people all the time, don't even say that word out loud because your brain believes you, right? You're the instructor. You're the driver of this bus. If you literally say, I can't do something, I don't care how hard you try from that moment on, you're not going to do it. It's that simple. Your brain is so much more powerful than your body. And I also tell people all the time when I train them that your brain, I'm sorry, your body is 20 times more powerful than what your brain thinks it is. So if you think you can't do something and you believe it, you've restricted yourself. But if you've ever gone online and watched a Navy SEAL train, you will realize that the human body is capable of many, many, many great things. So I have a lot of older people, like I said, who say they can't. So the thing that I would like to have people take away is that today is the day, whether you do or you don't exercise at all, right? For a few reasons. There are obviously many great physical reasons. There are many psychological reasons, right? We create endorphins in our brain. We make ourselves feel better just by doing some kind of exercise. Whatever you want. If you want the help in training the way I do, go online and look at our workouts. But change is only possible through movement. That's number one, right? And in my opinion, movement is medicine, right? That's what I believe in my head. That's what I believe as a trainer, right? That's what I want to teach people. Movement is medicine. Your body is designed to move. Your body was designed to lunge, to squat, to step up, to jump, to push, to pull. Your body was designed for that, right? So for me, that's the takeaway. Go ahead and try it. Whatever you want to consider that kind of exercise, but go ahead and introduce it into your life now that you have time, because it's going to make you feel better in your brain. With, like Dominick said, all this stuff we're watching, all the negativity that we have to listen to, give yourself a chance to create some good feelings in your brain that are natural, that your body produces just because we do exercise and we do the kind of things that we do. So like I said, change is only possible through movement. In my opinion, movement is medicine. That's my takeaway for everybody.
Love that, Mike. Mike. I love that. That's the life I choose to live today. Movement is
right on, man. And you changed your life because of it, right? You changed your life because of it.
I saved my life.
You were sick. You made a choice, and you changed your life and the health of your body.
Yeah.
You know, we only get one, man. You know, and we should really try to do our best to take care of it the best that we can, both mind and body. Right? The mind is the driver of this bus, right? And for me, you know, and I can go on with some other stuff that maybe some other time we'll have, but I met a baseball psychologist when I was in college, and I found out some very, very, very incredible things about your brain that can literally stop your body from doing certain things in a good way and a bad way. But, you know, again, if you say you can't do something, you're not going to, you know, and so you have to be able to say that you're able, that you would like to try, whether it's whatever it may be. But my takeaway is that have people try to exercise, to move, to just move the way the body was designed. At the very least, what I tell people every day that are overweight and they come to me and say, how can you help me? I said, well, my first suggestion, first and foremost, is when you wake up in the morning, before you eat breakfast, go outside and walk. If you can walk 45 minutes to an hour before you even eat a meal, that's called fasting cardio in my business. And it is a great way to lose weight quickly without doing any kind of strenuous exercise at all. It has been proven for years and years and years. So that would be the simplest thing that you could do if it was something you'd like to change right now. We have nothing but time. You can walk outside. It's obviously safe to do that with nobody around. But for me, that would be the takeaway, to try to do something and allow your body and your brain to feel better about it.
Beautiful. We are just about over the hour now, about 10 minutes past the hour. And so what I'd like to invite both of you to do is really hone in. This is my last question I'm going to ask for the two of you to answer in your own words and experience. What does, as so many millions of us are experiencing coming home right now, either coming home to the home that we grew up in or coming home to a new reality, what does coming home mean to you, Dominick?
Good question. Okay, so I guess there's multiple dimensional ways to think about this. Coming home to me would be coming home to a way of thinking that we are all part of the same family. Life is not unique to the earth. Life is abundant in the universe. We are limitless beings if we choose to be. And I think we're getting to a point where that's going to be realized. So to me, coming home is to realize what our potential as beings are, and how we're going to be able to face that in the future. That limitless knowledge or that limitless knowing. There's belief and knowing about who you are. And to me, that would be coming home. Understanding what I know and what I believe to be the same.
Thank you for sharing that, Dominic. Mike, you're we'll put you out of. You're the cleanup.
For me, I think. All right, I could do that. For me, I think coming home is about allowing yourself again to create a way of life that helps you realize that you are in control of the outcome of your health and your situation. Creating goals that help you to strive to be a stronger person, to be a better person, to be a more faithful person. So coming home to me, in a nutshell, it's not so much what you get from achieving your goals, but it's who you become when you achieve your goals.
I love that, Mike. Thank you both for sharing that today. I would like to take a moment to thank those in the community that have either been with us on the live or catch us on replay. This is a conversation. This has been a beautiful conversation between Mike, Dominic, and myself. Three of us met when we were young kids in elementary school. And for me, there's so much depth to coming home. And I could take it in about five different lanes right now. But what I will say in this moment for me coming home is that here we are 40 years later. And due to the universe showing up just on time, I reconnected with both Mike and Dominic. And in this moment, three of us have come home to a conversation that's relevant in our life today, one that we're all facing. We all have a choice to either face it in fear or face it with faith, understanding that how we show up and interpret and accept the reality that we are living in just for today will determine if we suffer in this moment or if we are able to find inner peace, calm, stillness, ease, and comfort for ourselves, for our loved ones, for our children, for our parents, our siblings, our friends, maybe even employees. And so it has such a new meaning to me today than it ever had. I could tell you that when I was near death and back in 15, coming home for me meant really coming back to who I was, getting to know who I was, because I didn't know who I was at that point. As a 54-year-old, I'd lost myself chasing the American dream. And in doing so, I had disconnected from truly who I was at my core. And coming home for me then meant really reconnecting and getting to know who I was and what truly was important and truly who I want to show up and be today. The best version of myself, which has always been there. He was just kind of sleepwalking and unawakened. And so here we are today in 2020, fast forward now. And this to me is the greatest opportunity, although it appears to be scary and painful for so many of us, it's an opportunity to really reflect, pause, and process how we have been showing up for ourselves and for our loved ones. And what can we do today so that we change our outcome? We change how we experience this moment, this day. And coming home ultimately is, to me, it's about a choice. We either choose to live in suffering, we choose to live in resisting what is and not accepting this new reality, at least for today, or we open our hearts, open our minds, and look at this and say, what can I do differently just for today so that today is a good day for me? And, my standard answer to most people when they ask me, how am I doing? How am I holding up? My answer is consistent today. It's, all things considered, I'm doing well. And with that, if you enjoyed this conversation and you found the content to be of value to you, I invite you to support the program, support the work, the shows that I keep bringing forward with a small love donation that can be done at paypal.me/JRothmanLife. And whether it be $1, $5, $10, it's not how much you give, it's that you give from your heart. And I will continue to do what I do, which is show up one day at a time and just come from the space of loving kindness to you. And tomorrow, I've got a guest coming in from the East Coast. Her name is Cora Ray. She's going to be joining me in the studio under my other show, Real People, Real Stories. That show is going to be coming in at 7 p.m. on the East Coast. Cora Ray is going to share. She's got an amazing story, like so many millions of people worldwide. Her life had reached a point she had gotten out of control. She had also picked up an addiction, a seduction with alcohol. And today she is sober, she is clean, and she has cleaned up her life and continues to work on making healthier choices for herself and living the life that she was always capable of living, not living in the pain and doing some healing work and facing her own shadows. Cora Ray is going to join us. Cora Ray Spalding tomorrow is going to come in. I think this is an important topic, an important show, because as we are all navigating through this moment of unknowns and fear and getting the downloads that we have access to, many of us are, in fact, seeking out ways to numb ourselves out and distract ourselves with unhealthy habits like addictions. Too much drinking, too much TV. I could go on, but ultimately, this is an important topic. Perhaps you'll hear something in tomorrow's conversation that may help you make a different choice for yourself today or tomorrow, and maybe put down a bottle, drink less, or take it out. Take it out for now if it's not serving you. And with that, Mike and Dominick, I'd love to have you guys come back maybe next week and continue this conversation, because there's so much more to chat about. And want to thank you for joining me today, and have an amazing weekend. Stay healthy and stay at peace then.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Jay.
you.
Thanks
and just remember,
me,
whether we fear or not is a choice. Whether we're happy or not is also a choice. So choose to be happy. Choose to not live in fear.
God bless everybody, man. Stay safe and healthy. Peace.
Take care.